for him to have the night that he did, I don't think it's a fluke. I think he will be one of the best backs in senior backs in Kansas this fall.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank. If you're thinking about starting a business or know someone who is, check out Emprise Bank's SBA loans. It's always good to know your options, and they can be your partner in possible.
Hello, and welcome to the Verbal Commitment Podcast here on the Kansas City Sports Network, brought to you by Home Field Apparel. I'm Kevin Flaherty, and I'm here, as always, with Ryan Wallace from GoPowerCat.com and 24/7 Sports. And we're going to talk to you about the world of local recruiting, from Kansas and Kansas City prospects to the college classes at Kansas, Kansas State, and Missouri. This week, we're bringing you interviews with Penn State commitment Jayden Woods of Mill Valley and Kansas commitment Juju Marks of Olathe South, with the two of them going head-to-head at times in Mill Valley's 42-35 win that opened the season for both teams. As always, if you like what you're hearing, like, subscribe, leave us a 5-star review wherever you get your podcasts, like Apple or Spotify. All those things help us to grow the show and get us in front of more people like you. And how would you like to make an extra $500? Go to BlueWirePods.com/survey and complete the Blue Wire audience survey about you and your podcast listening habits for a chance to win a $500 gift card. Not only can you win that money, your answers will help us create a better viewing and listening experience, improving the show. That's BlueWirePods.com/survey, which should be linked below, where all you have to do is answer some simple questions for a chance to win $500. Ryan, 2 weeks ago, Missouri started off the season pretty hot, and we were kind of wondering if we were going to be able to get a game that could live up to that one. And we got a pretty good opening Friday on the Kansas side as well, with Mill Valley outlasting a pretty game Olathe South squad.
Yeah, we kind of thought that, Olathe South has been trending in the right direction, right, ever since Ron Litchfield was hired there. And we had talked about it before. They kind of had Jordan Allen, and they had Bryce Nornberg, and who was going to be kind of the guy to step out and lead this 2024 squad. I think we might have that player, which we'll talk about in a minute. But yeah, a great game. We could not have picked a better game to go to. The heroics at the end. It was another one of these games that it took all 4 quarters, and deep into the fourth quarter before we really had an official winner, where Mill Valley was able to take a knee. And they, again, it was another one of these situations, Kevin, where it kind of happened with a turnover, and then something happened in the red zone. Only in this instance, it wasn't the offensive team that scored in the red zone. So really, really gutsy effort by Olathe South. But it's another one of those situations that you have to wonder, when you're Joel Appleby and the guys that are coming up through Mill Valley, they just find a way. They always find a way.
Yeah, let's start off with the headliner here, right? Penn State commitment Jayden Woods, who was our top player in the Metro and a guy that we think is a top 2 player in the state of Kansas, along with Goodland's Lincoln Cure. He moved to middle linebacker this season, and he had an interception playing that middle linebacker spot. But Ryan, with the game on the line, he kind of went back to Old Faithful on that edge, and he finished with 3 sacks, including 2 right on that final drive, including the final play that kind of shut off the hose for Olathe South and allowed Mill Valley to win that game.
I was going to say, we've got the 3 major highlights from Jayden that we want to show you here on this play. So first here, you'll see the interception with him playing that Mike linebacker position. Just saw that one the whole way. And then these are the 2. This was 3rd down. You watch him kind of, again, chase the quarterback, prevents the throw that he was looking for in the corner. And then here, with pretty much the game on the line for Olathe South, again, this was back-to-back plays. He goes and makes the sack again. That one against Juju Marks went right around him. And you'll hear a little bit more from Jayden. We asked him about that specific play and, what made him want to go rush the quarterback so hard. Obviously that was kind of his key and his assignment all along, but how he was able to get around Juju Marks with the ease that he did. I won't steal the info. You have to stick around and have Jayden tell you, but it was pretty enlightening, and I think spoke volumes about the homework that Jayden does through the week, and again, kind of setting him up to be a really, really good college player. Kevin, as I throw it back to you, you talked about how he's our number one guy in the Metro and a number 1 or 2 guy in the state to Lincoln Cure. There was nothing that we saw from Jayden Woods on Friday night that would lead me to believe that we were wrong in any of that. And on top of that, I think Jayden cemented himself with this particular game, because as you and I were talking about on the sideline, it seems like the one knock that we've heard kind of through the Metro or people that have watched Jayden that maybe aren't as high on him as you and I are, it's always that they kind of expect him to be Superman and take games over. And I think one of the things that's always sold me on Jayden is that even if he's not making the 2 plays that he did in this game, which I think silenced those type of critics, he's also the type of player that rarely makes a mistake. I mean, he is so, more often than not, exactly where he needs to be. And to me, at the high school game, it's as equally important to take a game over as it is to never be on the wrong side of a big play.
Well, yeah, and in college, the latter is arguably even more important because you're one of 11 guys that can really play. There's not room for freelancing, right? You have to be assignment sound first and go make the play second. And one of the things that we always liked about Jayden, he's a really smart kid. He's incredibly adaptable. Yes, the athletics and the explosiveness and all those things are there. But when you look at the types of players who a lot of times play early, they're the guys who can take coaching points and apply them really quickly. They're the guys who don't make the same mistakes twice. And I think Jayden has a lot of those traits in addition to, being a really good, really powerful athlete. Like we mentioned, that final sack did come working against Juju Marks, who committed to Kansas in June. But Ryan, I really thought Juju, who also played defensive tackle on the defensive side, checked a lot of boxes that you want to see from a future offensive tackle. He probably looked about as good as we've seen him in that spot, I think.
Yeah.
You can see the length, the way he moves, the way he shadows pass rushers pretty well. Those are things that a lot of high school tackles don't necessarily have at this point. And he's kind of the rare high school tackle who is maybe further ahead as a pass blocker than he is as a run blocker, especially for a guy his size.
Yeah, I mean, going into this game, for us, I know me personally, it was all about seeing if this was going to be a fresh start for Juju, where, he kind of found that love for the game again. And watching him, I don't think there's any question that he's really found himself again at Olathe South. As we get into some of the highlights here, and you're going to notice he's going to be playing left tackle here. Even though you're not going to see the highlight, the circle come around him, just know that he's going to be in left tackle position in all these. And this is the one right here that I think goes to what you're saying is you see the pass pro there against a guy like MJ Watch, who's sawed off and strong, but agile and mobile as well. And I thought for 295 with his height, Juju, again, the strength of his game on Friday to me was in the pass pro. And they continue to run behind him over and over and again. And I think for a guy like Juju, I think that in itself is kind of, it helps him motivate himself, knowing that coach is coming to my side more and more and more. I mean, I think it lets him know that he's doing his job. But I'm really happy that Juju turned things on in the second half, because I'm not here to mince words, Kevin. I mean, you and I, in this day and age with college football the way it is, things are nobody's going to mince words as you get to the college level, and they're certainly not going to mince words when they get to the NFL level. And so something about this show, for anyone who's just tuning in, is we're not going to be Kool-Aid drinkers. We're not going to be sunshine pumpers. We're going to tell it like it is. And I say that because the first half, I was really thinking, how am I going to come on this show and be nice about Juju Marks? It wasn't a great showing. At defensive tackle, there were times where it looked like he was just kind of out there going through the motions. And then I think at offensive tackle, especially like you said in run blocking, you want to see him be more aggressive. For a guy that's 6'5", 6'6", 295, you want to see him toss guys as often as you saw in those highlight clips. And in the first half, it didn't happen. And I don't know what happened at halftime, but the second half, it really did seem like it clicked for him. Are there problems there? I think in run blocking, sure. But if anybody's going to fix the run blocking stuff, it's going to be Lance Leipold's staff. Like you said, the pro here, if you're a KU fan, the huge benefit to me was how well he looked in pass pro. I just thought that he got out of the blocks really well. Again, maybe wasn't going against somebody super elusive outside of the couple times we got to see him go against Jayden Woods. And there were times where he held his own, but I just loved the footwork for a guy his size. I think he could still benefit in maybe trimming down a little bit, getting a little bit better conditioning. But overall, I mean, the size that he has, you already have the mold to really make something special there. Now it's just about tapping into Juju and getting him to play angry. We know he's got it, Kevin. You just want to see him do it over and over and over again. And I think once Olathe South gets that to click, especially on defense, he might be the missing piece to them making a really deep run in the 6A playoffs.
Look, we've seen Juju a ton, right? Some of these guys are relatively late emergers. That was not Juju. We knew about Juju as a high school freshman. We saw him play, I remember in person as a sophomore, as a defensive lineman. He's still relatively young on the offensive line side of things. And I think that shows sometimes. There's maybe, people like to get their assignment down and get the thing. We talk about this with Andrew Babalola, don't we?
Yep.
In terms of you want him to get things down before you're comfortable enough to throw somebody around. But you're absolutely right. You do want to see him displace some guys in the run game, knock a few guys over. And if he becomes that guy more consistently, his ceiling at Kansas is really high. You got the basketball background, the size, all of those different things that you look for from an offensive tackle. And I'm really interested to see Juju week 6, because I do think that second half in particular, like you were saying, was maybe better than we saw from Juju a year ago. And so that was a pretty encouraging indicator if he can kind of tap into that.
I wanted to say one more thing about Juju too, Kevin.
Sure.
I thought it was really interesting that at the end of the game, the last time I saw Juju before Friday night was walking off the field, a victorious St. Thomas Aquinas member, beating an arch rival in Miege in the 4A playoffs last fall. And he was victorious and took some photos with some of his linemen, but, just seemed a little bit out of it. And, again, that was a game that Randy Dreiling didn't have him play a whole lot on either side of the ball for reasons that only those guys will know. But he comes out again in this game, seemed to take more of a leadership role to the extent where at the end of the game, Ron Litchfield turned to him, not some of the other guys, one of which, again, we're going to talk about here in a minute, and had Juju break the team down. And again, even after the game, we had coaches from Mill Valley and players from Mill Valley that are going over to seek out Juju. I think everybody kind of knows that this was a step in the right direction for him in his football career. And again, I think it speaks volumes to the personality, the charisma that he does carry. And once you tap into it, he is a guy that I think a lot of people want to be around and want to be friends with and want to look up to. And I think they're finally getting that at Olathe South out of him.
He said a lot of interesting things and a lot of the right things that you want to hear in the interview when we talked with him after the game, and that'll come up here in a little bit. But speaking of the running game, for the second consecutive week, we got to see two pretty darn good running backs.
That was fun.
We will get to Mill Valley 2026, Reggie Reese here in a minute, and he was a lot of fun to watch. But Ryan, we picked Olathe South running back Max Armstrong as our unsung star of the week. What did you think of Armstrong's performance against, quite frankly, a really good defensive front?
Yeah, whenever we have a chance to do this, I think this will start being a regular thing on the show through the football season. Guys that, maybe don't have the recruiting acclaim or maybe even recruiting potential of even a guy like Reggie Reese, but certainly not a Juju Marks or a Jayden Woods. And Max Armstrong falls in that category. He's been to a number of recruiting camps over the summer. Some coaches have stopped by from, schools like Northwestern, Wyoming. Obviously, anybody that's in there to see Juju Marks, you can rest assured Coach Litchfield is trying to push his guy, Max Armstrong, who he touted as just a great human being above the football stuff. But to give you a glimpse into the Friday night that Max Armstrong had, 24 carries for 216 rushing yards, 7 catches for 56 receiving yards, and 4 touchdowns for the 5'11", 190-pound senior. Kevin, as you see here in the highlights, the breakaway speed was on full display. I don't know what he runs, but I would be hard-pressed to think it's any slower than 4.5s, right? High 4.5s, certainly low 4.6s, which again at the Kansas high school level is extremely fast. You see here, great agility, leapfrogging the Mill Valley defender, and then again has the burst to still outrun number 12 or 21 there. Might have been little Jay, who's a pretty good athlete in his own right. But again, hits the ground and still has the acceleration to pick up, an extra 20, 25 yards there. I thought, solid hands as a receiver. I mean, capable as a receiver, but out of the backfield, the vision, the acceleration, and the physicality, wanting to run through guys. And I know Reggie Reese is kind of the same way. We'll get to him in a minute, but I liked Armstrong and his ability to outrun guys just as much as his wanting to, run over them. I don't know maybe about the elusiveness in terms of like the cutting, was more kind of a rounder as he runs and kind of makes his way up through lanes. But again, the speed and the fact that there wasn't a drop off as he was going from middle linebacker on defense to then coming in. There were only a couple times he left the field all night. And to have the performance that he did against a defense like Mill Valley's with a guy like Jayden Woods back there just patrolling the middle of the field with, sights set on the running back and the ball carrier, for him to have the night that he did, I don't think it's a fluke. I think he will be one of the best backs senior backs in Kansas this fall.
Yeah, I would 100% agree. One of the best junior running backs probably in Kansas for this season is probably going to be Reggie Reese at Mill Valley. He's such a physical runner. And Ryan, I think in person, one of the things that we talked about was that he moved better than maybe what he clocks in a 40-yard dash. He had a 41-yard touchdown run on Friday, but I actually thought there was a 23 or 24-yard touchdown run that he had that I thought he maybe looked even more explosive on it. And I thought that, the cuts were sharp. You knew he had the physicality, right? Even last year when he went into games, he was getting behind those pads and making defenders feel him. He's not a fun guy to tackle, but Ryan, I really thought the movement skills were maybe better than what I thought they would be.
And I think that's what right now is holding back some of the major colleges because, we talked to Joel Appleby after the game, and there's definitely intrigue and definitely interest from coaches that are going to want to see some of his junior tape as a 2026 recruit. And I think that really it's just a matter for him of speed and convincing people to kind of don't just look at my tests. Come out and see me play. Because like you said, Kevin, I don't know if the film shows how fast his game is.
Yeah.
Watching him from the sidelines, he's fast enough. And if he's not fast enough for what you want as a running back, I guarantee you with the type of aggressive mindset that he has, he's going to project somewhere at the college level, maybe even if it's on defense. And Mill Valley doesn't need him to play that right now. He might not ever play that for Mill Valley. So any coaches that are hoping that they might see that film, I don't know if they're going to get it. But yeah, the cutting was strong for a guy that's 6'1", 6'2", a little bit lankier. But he can cut on a dime when he wants to. The funny thing is, as we talked about, Kevin, he doesn't really want to cut to the outside or cut to the inside where there's a lane. He literally would rather run over you and get stopped there, but know that he just, took made more minutes in the ice bath for you tomorrow as opposed to, running for the touchdown. He's a guy for sure that is on recruiting radars. He's been on our radar since he was a freshman, and we were starting to hear stuff from the Mill Valley community that this kid's going to be pretty good. This was just kind of his coming out party, and I think he'll have a strong junior season. And again, for him, it's going to be all about trying to bring down those speed testing numbers and some of those agility numbers. And from there, I think the rest of the way, it'll be the film speaking for itself.
I was also pretty impressed with Mill Valley's offensive line. I know that they really like LaMarcus Barber. He's maybe kind of their next big prospect coming up that they expect to be, a heavy offer guy in that 2026 class. A guy that we were talking about on the sidelines, friend of the show, Mick Schaefer. His son, Abe Schaefer, moved over to the offensive line from the defensive line I thought he was terrific. It really did. You did not see. It did not seem like a guy who had just moved over. It looked like a kid that entered the season with aims on being an all-state type of guy. Keep an eye on him kind of as an up-and-comer that when colleges start to get a little more of that senior tape and maybe some options fall by the wayside and they start to reevaluate their board a little bit, I think he's a guy that might wind up surprising some people.
You and I were separated for a little bit at the beginning there, and so we had a chance to kind of take our own notes, right? And then you ended up coming and finding me down on the sideline, and I was like, 56 is pretty good. And I didn't have the roster in front of me, and I should have known that it was Abe Schaefer, but I didn't. And I thought maybe it was the LaMarcus Barber kid, and you were like, yeah, that's Abe Schaefer. And I was like, well, holy cow, now I see where the intrigue is at offensive line. You're absolutely right. I think, he's gotten some interest. He's gone to a bunch of camps at the Power 4 level and certainly the FBS level. And there for a while, maybe it seemed like he was destined a little bit more for, say, the FCS or, Division II kind of MIAA. The more I watch of him and how technically sound he is, a la like a Sam Hecht type, I'm starting to wonder maybe if he won't put the senior tape together where, like you said, Kevin, come December, come January, you've got maybe some holes to fill, you've got a couple PWO flyers still sitting out there, that a K-State or KU doesn't come calling, because I think technically he's pretty sound, and I think that he shows that he's got the body to still bulk up a little bit and be, a sound offensive lineman in the future.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. It's also probably as good as I've seen from MJ Wash, 2026 over at Mill Valley. His issue's been, he's been hurt a lot. But when he's been out there, he's been a guy that's shown a lot of potential. He's one of the state's best wrestlers. He's a little bit of a sleeper in that class for a couple of reasons, Ryan, one of which we talked about there had been some injury issues. But I think the other part, too, is he needs to continue to grow physically. He's kind of a tweener a little bit in terms of that frame. If he winds up getting a little bit taller, winds up, filling out a little bit more, he could be a guy that kind of emerges in that class a little bit late, which sounds weird to say because he was another guy that we knew about as a freshman at Mill Valley. But we always like to say improvement's not linear, right? Growth is not linear. And so sometimes guys are going to kind of do this thing. And so he was a guy that if you asked around the state when he was a freshman, even though he was kind of working through some things, people might have said, hey, this guy is one of the freshmen to circle and really keep your eye on in this class. He's gone through that whole thing where now he's maybe underrated a little bit on the other side of that if those things can work out for him.
Yeah, good enough to get a UC report invite after his freshman year. And I mean, the Juju Markses and everybody under the sun was at that thing. So again, thought highly enough of at that time in his career to go out there, and I thought held his own for his age.
Yep.
I think for him, like you said, if I'm MJ Wash with the wrestling background, you talk about comps for him, and the goal for him would be Damian Alalio, Ethan Creamer, former Mill Valley Jag. And what I mean by that is kind of take that wrestling background that he has, continue to be a weight room warrior, and maybe bulk up even more to where you can really assert yourself as a true defensive tackle prospect, a true guy, maybe not in a 3-man front, but in a 4-man front, and be kind of that pass rushing defensive tackle. I think if he's able to do that, I think that puts him on maybe another level up of a collegiate radar. But right now, I think he's still good enough to play college football. It's just going to be probably more at a FCS D2 level.
This week, we'll be heading outside the Kansas City metro area for the first time this year and further into the Sunflower State as Lawrence Free State takes on Manhattan. Ryan, I know we had a chance to see a number of these guys over the summer from Free State's defensive talent at Mill Valley 7-on-7. It feels like there are kind of too many guys to name on here, right? From Parker Moore, Draven Samuel, Noah Simpson, to Manhattan 2026 defensive back J.J. Dunnigan, one of the state's top players in that 2026 class, and a guy that both of us saw at different camps this summer. I know he's a cornerback right now, and we've talked about him on this show before, but I think both of us feel, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, that he could be a pretty good cornerback, but he has the potential to be a pretty stellar safety if he does wind up moving further into that back end.
Yeah, I mean, I get where he's coming from right now on kind of I'm following the mold of like a Julius Brents because, we've seen it in the NFL, the Sauce Gardners. I mean, that's kind of the trend. Everybody's looking for that next Reek Woolen, the 6'3" guy that can handle his own out there. And I think at the high school level, JJ can do that. And he might be able to do that with further teaching and fundamentals and all those things, working on his agility and his speed at the next level. But I think that his ceiling is so much higher as a safety. It's like you could play cornerback if you want, or you can be an elite level, all Big 12, all whatever conference he wants to play in type of safety. I think that he'd just be, he to me is one of the guys with maybe the highest ceiling for a few of the 2026s that we've already talked about. And we've already featured him on our top 5 on this show in the state of Kansas. I'm pretty jealous that you're getting to see this game as well. That is one that I would love to make if my wife weren't out of town and I was, stuck at home being single parent on Thursday night. But I think this is going to be a really good one. And I'm excited for you to see JJ Dunnigan because I think him in pads is even better than the JJ Dunnigan that I've seen out of pads.
Well, we will still have 2 members of the Verbal Commitment podcast there because Nick Springer, our
that's right,
will also be there calling the game. Free State has one of the state's top 2026 players as well in massive offensive tackle Braden Wilness. He saw both local schools play in week 1, caught Kansas playing Lindenwood at Sporting KC, then making it out to Manhattan to watch Kansas State and UT Martin. Another guy that we both had a chance to see in person. We'll have our interviews with Jayden Woods and Juju Marks coming up. But first, let's hear from you guys. Do you like our rankings? In previous episodes, we ranked the top 2025s in the metro area and went on to name our top 2026 players in both Kansas and KC Mo. Think we're way off? Or is there something or someone you'd like to see on our show? One of the best things about recruiting in high school football is the discussion and community that can bring. And if you have any questions or comments, text us at the KCSN Mint Mobile Hotline. We'll read your comments. We may just talk about them on the show, so what do you have to lose? Shoot us a message over at 913-407-6524, and let's talk about it. We also want to tell you about our friends at Home Field Apparel. The college football season has already started, but it's not too late to gear up for the rest of the college football season, including the new coaches' jackets that should provide a perfect layer as fall hits. And if that isn't quite your look for one reason or another, Home Field has you covered with all kinds of gear for all kinds of weather, from t-shirts to long sleeves and outerwear, with more than 40-plus items apiece for Kansas, Kansas State, and Missouri fans to choose from. So head to homefieldapparel.com and use the promo code linked below in the description, and you can get 15% off your first order. We'll be right back.
We appreciate you supporting KC Sports Network by listening to our podcast. You have helped us become the highest-ranked Chiefs podcast network in 2022 and 2023. And don't forget about our daily Substack newsletter, the best written analysis you can find on the Chiefs straight to your inbox every day. kcsn.substack.com. We appreciate you supporting KC Sports Network by listening to our podcast. You have helped us become the highest-ranked Chiefs podcast network in 2022 and 2023. And don't forget about our daily Substack newsletter, the best written analysis you can find on the Chiefs straight to your inbox every day. kcsn.substack.com.
With big wireless providers, what you see is never what you get. Somewhere between the store and your first month's bill, the price you thought you were paying magically skyrockets. But with Mint Mobile, you'll never have to worry about gotchas ever again. When Mint Mobile says $15 a month when you purchase a 3-month plan, they mean it. Say bye-bye to your overpriced wireless plan's jaw-dropping monthly bills and unexpected overages. Mint Mobile is here to rescue you with premium wireless plans starting at just $15 a month. Worried about losing your phone number? With Mint Mobile, you can use your own phone and bring your phone number along with all of your existing contacts. So ditch overpriced wireless with Mint Mobile's deal and get 3 months of premium wireless service for just $15 a month. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, Go to mintmobile.com/KCSNVC. That's mintmobile.com/KCSNVC. Cut your wireless bills just $15 a month at mintmobile.com/KCSNVC. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speeds slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details.
We're back with the Verbal Commitment Podcast, sponsored by Home Field Apparel. We went out and saw Mill Valley start off its season with a tight win over Olathe South on Friday. After the game, we checked in with Penn State commitment Jayden Woods, who had a star performance for the Jaguars.
So Jayden, obviously a stiff competition tonight from Olathe South, but I wanted to talk kind of about your heroics there at the end. Walk us through, and fans that didn't get a chance to see, back-to-back sacks that kind of took Olathe South out of scoring range and gave you guys the win. Take us through those two plays, those two monster sacks that, again, kind of sealed it for you.
So previously we were struggling mentally. Me personally, I was struggling mentally too, just getting too down on myself over mistakes and stuff. So Coach gave us a good talk. The whole defense, whole D-line just came together. Know that we had to move on to the next play, go 1-0, and then just know we had to do our job to our best ability.
Your debut as a Mike linebacker, but there at the end you kind of made a killing out the edge again.
Yeah.
Did it feel good to kind of have that ability to go both ways?
Yeah, definitely it did. I still like Mike, of course. It was just it felt kind of slow at first. It was my first live game at Mike, so definitely a lot of things to fix in film for sure. But going back down to the edge, it was good to be back down there. As
a leader, you've kind of been through this stuff before, right?
Yeah.
It's weird to ask this question, but in a way, is it kind of a good thing to kind of have a program like Mill Valley in a tight one in week one, because now you can kind of tell these younger guys it isn't?
Definitely. So like the past my two varsity seasons previously, it's always been blowouts leading up to like mid-season. Then we lose our first game, go through that adversity. But to get it right now, and know that we have to just battle through adversity and get to experience in the first game, I think that's even better for our team.
I know we're fresh off this one, still standing on the field, but how excited do you feel like you and this team are for a chance to have a KC Mo team in Lee's-Summit North come your way next week?
Very excited. Seeing it as another game, though, for sure. Just going to prepare the same way, attack it the same way, and just hopefully come out with a win.
We haven't talked to you about recruiting on the podcast yet, so wanted to give you a chance to kind of voice the reasoning behind the Penn State decision.
So I feel like it's the best fit for me schematically right now, and I feel like the best option when I committed.
Relationship-wise with that coaching staff, what stands out and kind of pushed you their way too?
Yeah, I'd say their genuineness, and both of the D-line coaches played at Penn State too, which kind of meant a lot. Spoke a lot about their program, so that's kind of what sold me on it, and that's why I picked it.
I don't know if you noticed tonight, but there were two Purdue coaches that were on the sideline tonight. I guess just kind of address the fact that they still wanted to come out, and is there anything you need to say about your recruitment with rival teams still recruiting?
So I am keeping an open mind. Of course, recruiting is crazy nowadays. A lot of things can change in a season, so just still keeping an open mind. And that's really it.
How about, I will ask you about one of those coaches in particular, though, Joe Deneen, as a local guy. The relationship that you've built with him. Again, you're a Penn State commit, but even prior to that, the relationship you had with the Purdue defensive coach.
It means a lot. It's good to talk to him. I still talk to him every week on a weekly basis. He told me he played his first game on this field actually back when it was grass. So it's good to talk to him and hear his stories about back when Kansas football back in the old times, I guess. But it's really cool to talk to him and relate to him.
What is it about Penn State's defense that kind of stands out to you? Because that was such a big thing for you when you went through, was you wanted to see your fit within that defense. How do you see your role and what excites you about it?
So when I went up there in the spring, I saw Danny Denise Sutton, Bill Carter up there practicing, and I just saw myself fitting in with those guys in the locker room and on the field too. They treat their DNs like outside linebackers. They were saying like Chop and Adisa Isaac, when they got to the NFL, they went straight to the outside linebacker room. So that stuck out to me, and that's why it kind of appealed to me, that position there.
People who aren't super familiar with you might not know that you haven't been playing defense or linebacker or defensive end that long. You were what, quarterback as a freshman?
Yeah, quarterback,
And so I guess, how was that journey to get from, hey, this playing on the edge is totally foreign to me, to where you feel like you're in a spot where you can have two really explosive pass rush reps in a huge game situation like the end?
I would just say mentality, transitioning from quarterback. was I kind of had to remind myself, I'm still new to the position. I was expecting a lot out of myself. I still do expect a lot out of myself, so that's why I feel, kind of get down on myself too much because I expect the highest out of myself. So, but the transition has been really good, and I'm excited to just keep developing at this position.
Did you get a chance to watch Penn State against West Virginia?
I did, yeah.
What'd you think?
I thought it was a really good game. Yeah, Bill Carter had a great game too.
Last but not least, Jayden, what would you say is the one area going into this senior year that you feel like you've improved on the most?
I'd say my leadership. I feel like I've been more vocal with the guys. Thursday night meetings, speaking more, having more words to say, being more inspirational. Picking guys up when they're down. That was kind of my biggest goal in the offseason was being a better leader. And I feel like I'm doing all right now, but definitely need to step it up a couple of notches though.
We also talked to Kansas commitment Juju Marks, who played both ways for Olathe South, but projects as an offensive tackle at the next level. Marks told us about the game and what he's doing to prepare for his time in Lawrence. Spoiler alert, he's already added a whopping 70 pounds since his freshman year of high school. So first of all, how nice is it to get the pads back on and hit somebody other than your teammates and start week one?
Oh, it was great, especially being in a new school, new start. I loved it, every second of it. Even though we didn't get the outcome we wanted, I'm still out here hitting people. So obviously I love that. And we're gonna bounce back, and hopefully we win next week.
Do you take any encouragement from the fact that, hey, this is a team that's won 5 straight state titles, and you guys were right there? I mean, they had to get that final first down just to run out the clock on you guys.
Yeah, I mean, one of the best teams in the state, obviously. I respect them, but I'm obviously not scared of them. I'm not scared of anything. I'm not scared of anybody. So I went head on head with obviously one of the other best players in the state. I mean, I want all the competition, everything that I want.
You got a chance to play both ways, defensive line and offensive tackle. Do you still feel a little bit more comfortable on the defensive side, or is it pretty even for you?
I'd say it's pretty even, to be honest. Still taking on double teams like I have been the last 2 years, but obviously got a couple of stats on the board, so I'd say it's pretty even.
Now, Kansas sees you as an offensive lineman, correct?
Yes, sir.
Why Kansas? You had some other schools you were looking at and everything. Why did you come down and pick the Jayhawks?
Well, ultimately, I could have went anywhere in the country, but I mean, Kansas built something special right here in my backyard. I've always been a Kansas fan, so might as well be a part of the legacy and build something new.
Now, you were saying that you have plans to go out and catch at least one game this year. Which game were you thinking about catching?
Most certainly the one against Colorado. I got to see that one.
But why Colorado?
Obviously to see my team, but I got to see Coach Prime, Travis Hunter, and all them. So, yeah, I got to see them play.
What kind of relationship do you have with Coach Paulson? How often do you guys talk? What's he like on a personal level?
I talk to him every week. He's a really cool dude, really low to earth. Talks to me about life. He doesn't care about just football because obviously I'm not a robot. I'm a human, 17 years old. So he checks on me every week. So it's a good relationship between us.
Do they have like a set weight or something that they're wanting you to be at, like when you get there, and what's your weight at right now?
I mean, they haven't given me like a particular weight, but right now I'm sitting at like 295. And that's a big 17-year-old, so yeah. I feel great to be this size right now.
Yeah, I was gonna say, how far have you gone to get to that point? Because you were 260 or so a couple years ago, somewhere around there.
Freshman year I was 225, so
wow.
Then sophomore year got to 260, last year 275. So I just been progressing a lot. But I feel great. I feel strong. I feel mobile. I feel good.
Are there any of the KU commitments that you feel like you've bonded with the most so far?
Tate Nagy.
Okay. Yeah.
I played against him last year, and I mean, just talking to him a little bit. But other than that, Anderson Cobb, and then Mal Kirby. For the most part, those couple. What about obviously players on that roster that you're already familiar with as a Kansas City guy? They kind of giving you some pointers before you get to campus? Yeah, they've said they've loved it. Like obviously they're going to put you to work. It's college, but they loved it. They love the staff. They love what they do. I've talked to Dev. I've talked to Jalen. I've talked to Quentin Skinner. I've talked to all the big guys. So. They really love it there, and I think I would love it there too.
For folks in the area that have never seen you play, Is there somebody that you kind of like in your style and your frame too that might provide a little bit of a comparison for folks?
Like pro, college?
Pro, college, offense, defense?
I don't really know if I play like anybody, but I want to model my game after Trent Williams.
Absolutely. What about his game that you like so much?
I mean, he's a force. Like, nobody can mess with him, and I want to be just like that.
What goals do you have for when you get on campus in Lawrence? Do you have any individual goals or things like that you already have kind of cooking in your brain?
Just work, because, I mean, I'm going to be realistic with myself. I'm probably not going to play freshman year. Probably going to redshirt, develop, get better, get stronger. So I'd say just work, listen to the coaches, stay in the weight room, eat, just do all that little stuff.
How about one fun one to end with? What's a story or a moment that you have with Coach Leipold that maybe nobody else would really know about, that the fans haven't really seen that side of him?
To be honest, I don't really know. I'd say the most wacky moment was when I first got offered and my dad didn't even hear it and he was standing right there. But yeah, other than that, I don't know.
And that should wrap it all up. Thanks to all of you for watching and listening to the Verbal Commitment Podcast here on KCSN. If you like what you've seen or heard, leave us a like, subscribe, or hit us with a 5-star rating. And until next time, we'll see you out on the trail, and take care.